Yeah. Just say yeah. We all get there. And something inside you change, or something, it's not because you feel pity or anything like. I don't know how to explain it, but suddenly your mind changes, and it's like God gets a hold of your heart and say, wait a minute, what about, you want to go hurt this person over this small thing, and yet I've forgiven you of all these great things. You want to punish, manipulate, emotionally hurt, or whatever this person because of this, yet I forgive you of wonderful or great things. That, when you stand back and you look at that change in your attitude, you need to glorify God. Because that is God changing your life. Amen? That's the outflow of God being in you. That should be encouraging to you. Some of us get bummed out. Man, I got angry. God knows you get angry. That's why he writes about it. Be angry and sin not. Okay? I'm glad we can be honest with God. And here, when you see that change happening in your life, you should glorify God, because that's God working in you. It's a testimony that God is living inside of you. It's a testimony that God is alive and real. Through all of the reality of God, or all these realities we've been talking about, they're all confirming one thing. See, by ourselves, we are just sinners and angry people. And we can get mad, and we can get frustrated, and we can, we can be short-suffering, short-tempered, right? But when that changes, we should really stand back and say, God, you really are alive. You're not a fictional thing. You are real, and you're really in my life, and they see God at work in their life. And what a powerful thing to know that the God of heaven is working in your life personally. That's something to glorify God for. Meant to withhold something. Maybe no one else even knows. But you know. You know. And God is alive in you. Amen. Any questions or comments where we're at right now? Long-suffering. Karen. Oh, it is. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Wonderful testimonies. Anybody else? John. I think you speak not just for yourself, but you speak for a lot of people. Because when be honest, John, you just said what a lot of people go through. That this happens, and it's like, this doesn't require me cutting off their head right here, and this isn't, worthy of, like immediate judgment, and to be long-suffering, and how do I deal with that? How do I maintain a Christian testimony in the workplace or in society and be long-suffering and not be a doormat? Because that's this side that we don't want to be the doormat. And I don't think God's called us to be the doormat either. But long-suffering is allowing God to to righteously judge the situation. And I have watched God have my back at work when I couldn't do anything about something, and God turned the situation around. And I totally, you'll hear me preaching it a lot, and I want to encourage each and every one of you to have the same thought, is that we are going to believe the God of the Bible. We're going to believe the God of not our own thought doctrine or our own ideologies. We're going to go back to the God of the Bible, and we're going to believe him for exactly what he said. Because that is where we're going to see miracles. We're going to see changed lives in us and in other people. And let's just be who God's called us to be. Let's just trust the God who said he'd be faithful to us. Amen? So normally when I get into that situation, I am turning back to God and say, God, this person's up to you. Because if it's up to me, it's going to be very, very bad. And that's the only way I can get it off my mind. Because otherwise, like what you said, it's vomitous. It just keeps coming back and back. I regurgitate it all the time. So I have to give it up to God. I really do. And that's where my prayer life comes in. That's why I lock in and pray. And I pray about specific people and specific situations. I'll call them out by name. And I'm not trying to call them out to other people. I do it in my own little corner there. But that's what I have to do. Amen. Anybody else? Long suffering is easy to talk about, hard to do. Amen. Nathan. I always think about what my friend used to talk about. He goes, people used to come off on the freeway, so he'd just get angry at them and start yelling at them through the car window, and just blast them, through the window, And then, he's pastoring a church, and he's trying to build a church, and he began to realize that that person might come to church someday and remember him. And God convicted him, and he goes, okay, God, I won't do that anymore. And so it's this ability to control your emotions, even when they want to get out of control, okay? And when you feel the tension coming down, you realize, hey, I need to step back here. Need to allow the pressure to be vented off. Did you know on every air tank, they have a California rule called the unfired pressure vessel rule. And on that pressure vessel rule, there's something called a pressure relief valve that you have to have. And the reason why is because sometimes when things malfunction, there needs to be a way to vent the pressure off without causing something catastrophic to happen. You know what that pressure relief valve is for our life? Prayer. You have to be able to come and pray and get the pressure off your life. Amen? Because things build. We malfunction once in a while. Amen? We lose our minds, but we need to be able to vent that and get rid of that. Mata, you had your hand up. Serving God requires a change of how we think. And that's really what we need here. In our world, in our human world, get back, get revenge, take immediate action, slash their tires, whatever. But long suffering is, not everything requires an immediate judgment. It really requires a humbling of our pride, and it requires that we seek God's help, and we judge things according to how God says to judge them. So that's what's so critical. Amen. Well, we are not going to even start part 2, but we will get next.